Welcome everybody to our August edition of Super Samurai Market. Here we are again at Token Matsumoto in Nishi Kasai. My name is Paul Kramers.
And I'm Robert Hughes. And we're happy to make this exciting visual presentation for you, and we're offering 3 swords and 3 Tsuba from Token Matsumoto today. In addition, we'd just like to mention that this month and the month of July were exceptionally hot in Japan, and July temperatures exceeded all records since the meteorological agency's been keeping track of temperatures since 1898. But now we're looking forward to a change in temperature and some cool autumn days and an opportunity for people to get out and enjoy
A very special event.
Yes. And what event is that?
It's the Daitokenichi.
The world's premier samurai art show coming in November 18th and 19th, a Saturday and Sunday. And the month of November in Japan, although in the Northern Hemisphere, November usually signifies winter, November in Japan is still very mild and comfortable and an enjoyable time. And there are many other events surrounding the Daitokenichi. So we do wish to encourage our viewers to take an opportunity, come to Japan, participate in the Daitokenichi, meet Mr. Matsumoto and meet Mr. Hattori from
And us, of course.
and meet us. We'll be there. And thank you very much.
Yeah. But before you book your flights, you have to watch these items we selected for you today.
Sword number 1 of Super Samurai Market's presentation of swords for Token Matsumoto. So this sword is signed Iwai Kanji Nobutsura, dated 1862. That's the 2nd year of Bunkyo, Mizunoi Inu, the year of the dog. This katana has a Tokukatsu Hozon certificate. It comes in Shirosaya and is accompanied with a koshirai. To begin with the details, the blade is Shinogi Zakuri shape with Iri Ori Mune, and it's recognized as a Kinoto style, and I'll explain that a little bit later. The region of the sword was Setsu province, and the era is late Edo period. The blade is long. It's 76 centimeters or 29.9 inches with limited sori, only 0.9 centimeters or 0.4 of an inch. The motohaba is 3.3 centimeters or 1.3 inches. The sakihaba is 2 centimeters or 0.8 of an inch. So the dimensions of the sword, clearly, it has a long nakago. There are 2 meikugiana, and this is all part of this Kinoto style appearance. So if we start to look at the details in the metalwork, the jihada is koitame nagare with ji nie. So they're kind of extended koitame. The hamon is a suguha with konie hotsure, kintsuji, and the blade shows nijuba. The nakago, of course, is ubu with kate sagari file patterns and kurijiri ending. Right now, the video is illustrating the nice temper pattern you can see the small box in the lower left-hand corner for details. So now you can see the boshi, and you can see that it's a sugu straight pattern with a short turnaround. So please follow in the small box to see the details in highlighted fashion. And now you'll get the visual of both sides of the sword as we progress from the kisaki down to the nakago. With the lighting and video presentation, various aspects appear because of lighting, but in hand and in actual size, the blade looks quite robust and attractive. Next, let's have a quick look at the koshirai. Here you can see that it's uchigatana style, and there's a black lacquer saya. The tsuba is a plain iron piece with a shakudo rim, but it's signed Aizuju Shoami Saku. The manuki are shakudo dragons, and the fuchikashira display dragon and clouds in shakudo. The tsuka is wrapped with a white silk tsumami maki style wrap. So previously I mentioned that this blade displays kinoto shape. So this style was actually preferred by imperial loyalists in the Bakumatsu period. And so forces loyal to the emperor had a preference for these long blades with limited sori. And during the rebellion, the Mito rebellion, forces would have carried these blades up to the Mito area. Next is sword item number 2 in Super Samurai Market presentation for Token Matsumoto. And this is a Wakizashi signed Bushu Shitahara Hiroshige with a Hozon certificate, and comes in Shirasaya with a koshirai. So beginning with the blade, as I've mentioned, this is Shitahara tradition, and the Shitahara tradition flourished from the late Muromachi period through to the late Edo period. And the area was actually, it's present day Hachioji, which is part of Tokyo, but during the Edo period it was considered Musashi province. So the period for this sword would be 1673 to roughly 1681. The length of the sword is 59.1 centimeters. So sadly, it's 9.9 centimeters short of being katana length. So as it is, it's an exceptionally long wakizashi. The sori is 1.8 centimeters, the motohaba is 2.9 centimeters, the sakihaba is 2.1 centimeter. If we start looking at the features, you could see you could see the boshi there, and you could see that it's a sugu, straight style with a hakikake. And now we're going to examine the sword from the nakago up to the kisaki. So you're going to see the jihada, you'll see itame, nagare, so extended itame with mokume. The hamon, which you'll notice in the upper part of the video illustration here, is gunome notare. And you should be able to visually see the konie and the nie suji. This represents fairly typical Shitahara work. It's quite interesting, and visually there's a lot to look at. And now we're going to examine the omote and the ura from the kisaki down to the nakago. This wakizashi is priced at 350,000 yen. So for a hozon paper blade with quite an interesting koshirai, it's a pretty good value. So it's an ubu nakago. There's a single mekugiana, and file markings are kate sagari, and there's a hagari kurijiri bottom on the nakago. Now we're looking at components of the koshirai, and you can see that the saya is not displayed here, but it's a really nice black lacquer masame nuri saya with in very good condition and a nice pattern. The tsuba is iron, somewhat simple, but has 4 inoshishi no me, or boar's eyes, and the menuki are gilt dragons, and the fuji kashira are copper based, but have other components. There's a anchor in shakudo on the fuji and a fierce oni on the kashira, and it's a togi dashisame wrapped dark brown silk hineri maki style ska. So as I mentioned, this is Hiroshige from the Shitahara tradition, and the Shitahara tradition began in the late Muromachi period, and they worked through to the end of the Edo period. Originally they were working for the Hojo family, but in 1590 the Hojo family lost to the Tokugawa family, so the Shitahara tradition smiths began to work for the stronger side, which was the Tokugawa family, and they continued working for the Tokugawa family until the end of the Meiji period. Actually, there were more than 50 swordsmiths representing the Shitahara tradition, 4 of the most famous being Hiroshige, Chikashige, Yasushige, and Terushige. So this smith, Hiroshige, was Yamato Toto Hiroshige. And as I mentioned, he was active during Empo era, 1673 to 1681. This blade has a Sayagaki by Honami Kosong sensei. It was written in 1953. The third sword in today's Super Samurai Market presentation for Token Matsumoto is an exciting piece. It's signed Suifu Ju Katsumura Norikatsu Saku Kore. Norikatsu, also known as Tokukatsu. It's dated Bunkyu Sanen, which is 1863, and August, the 8th month. It received a Tokubetsu Hozon certificate from MBTHK. It comes in Shirasaya with an early Tanabe Sensei Sayagaki. If you look at the video that's playing now, you're going to see features of the sword. It's Honzakuri Yorimune with a broad mihaba and thick kasane and chu kisaki and torizore curvature. The kitai, and this is the exciting part, is flowing masame hada with visible ji nie. And this masame is stunning. The hamon overall is a gunome notare. There's nie kuzure and tobiyaki. All of this together makes a very exciting visual package, especially for masame lovers. The boshi illustrates a hakikaki style with the kairu, slight curve back. So you can see that in this portion of the video. There are no bohi, so there's no horimono. And the nakago, which you previously saw in the video presentation, of course, is ubu with one mekugiana. The habaki is a gold foil niju style habaki. The length of this katana, the nagasa, is Nishaku Yonsun Kyubu, which is 76.4 centimeters. So a beautiful, large katana. The motohaba is 3.2 centimeters, so you've got considerable depth. And the sori comes in at 2 centimeters. Again, I want to emphasize visually how exciting this blade is. Look closely in the small video inset in the lower left, and you're going to see aspects of that exciting masame that I'm talking about. And also the tsunagashi, ripping right through the blade. It's been a long time since I've seen something as visually exciting as this. Now you can see the omote and the ura from the kisaki down. Get a perspective on what's happening on both sides of the blade. So this smith, Sufuju Katsumura Norikatsu, was a Mito-based smith. So Mito today is Ibaragi Prefecture. And there are some interesting historical anecdotes in relation to Mito. And I'd like to talk about one right now, and that is the Mito Rebellion. So this sword was dated 1863, but on May 2nd, 1864, the Mito Rebellion was undertaken. This is the Mito Bakumatsu Soran, or the Kanto Insurrection, or also known as the Tenguto Rebellion. It was a civil war that occurred in the area of the Mito domain in Japan and lasted from May 2nd, 1864 to January 14th, 1865. It was an uprising and included what we would consider today terrorist activity, and it was against the central power of the shogunate in favor of the Sono Joy policy, which translates as revere the emperor and expel the barbarians. So the shogun sent a pacification force out to Mount Tsukuba in the Mito domain on June 17th, and there was firepower, including cannons and firearms, and a Tokugawa force of 3,000 men to take on 700 Mito rebels. So this is a fascinating aspect of Japanese history. Now, this is pure speculation, but of the three swords that you viewed today, the first one was signed Nobutsura, and we recognize that this demonstrated the Kinoto style, which was popular with imperial loyalists. But this sword, a product of the Mito Han area under this smith, Katsumura Norikatsu, shows a deeper sortie and, in a sense, a more elegant blade, but artistically a much more exciting piece to look at. But these two swords were produced at relatively the same time. They're both Shinto blades. And one would have been in the hands of an imperial loyalist, Bushi. And it's not hard to imagine that the Mito blade may have been in the hands of one of these active rebels. So it's plausible that these two opposing forces could have carried these two blades into the same battlefield engagements. I mean, this remains speculation, but the timing is there. These two blades existing and coinciding at the same time, and that history from Tokyo or Edo up to Mito transpiring. Anyway, just a story, just an anecdote. But this sword is very exciting, and the price for this piece is 2 million yen. I think it's a good, solid investment.
Tsuba number 1 of Super Samurai Market's presentation for Token Matsumoto. We have here a very nice Tsukashi Tsuba made from a dark shakudo. It is attributed to Kyo-Shoami by the NBTHK Hoson Kanteisho and dates to the late Edo period. We know actually a lot of iron Kyo-Shoami Tsuba, so finding one in shakudo Tsukashi like this one here is quite rare. The Tsuba shows the famous weeping plum trees of the Jonangu Jingo shrine in Kyoto's Fushimi ward. If you actually have time visiting this shrine during the Sakura time, you should definitely try. If you look very closely, you can see that the ground on which the plum trees are carved is formed by a Matsukawa Bishi design, the so-called diamond shaped in the in the how to say, the hada, the skin of the matsu tree, the pine tree. We also find very fine golden inlays highlighting the very crisp shakudo relief here. Overall, a very charming and nice tsuba for 200,000 Japanese yen. When you put it in the box, you should actually put the omote on top. Next up is Tsuba number 2 of Super Samurai Market's presentation for Token Matsumoto. The maker Ichiyosai Hironao was active during the late Edo period in Mito. He was a disciple of Uchikoshi Hirotoshi, one of the most famous Mito masters. We can see quite a similarity to his master in the carving of the kakihan. As expected from a good Mito master, the iron is well forged and we see a slight tsukinokoshi rim, which means that the surface has been carved down to create a slightly higher rim and seppadai. The poet Li Bai, depicted here, is carved out of the iron, while his face and the horse are inlaid in a silver-greyish shibuichi. Small gold inlays are highlighting the impression. This piece has been awarded Tokubetsu Hoson by the MBTHK in March 2020 and is available for 300,000 Japanese yen. This is Tsuba number 3 of Super Samurai Market's presentation for Token Matsumoto. An iron Tsukashi Higo Tsuba attributed to Kanshiro, which means that it was made by either one of the 3 main masters of the Nishigaki school of Higo metal artists. With 8.3 centimeters, this is actually a very large and attractive Tsuba. We know this design from the Hayashi school as well, but the more casual interpretation and the slightly rougher surface treatment points us to the Nishigaki school. The design is called Kazumizakura, which is one of the many types of cherry trees which can be found all over Japan. This piece has been awarded Tokubetsu Hoson by the MBTHK in 2022 and is available for 500,000 Japanese yen. It comes not only with a very nice custom-made kiri box, but also with a matching shifuku, which is the small pyjama the box can be put into.